What if everything we thought we knew about the U.S. China economic race is backwards? Right now, the gap between the U.S. and China's GDP is growing, not shrinking. But according to Justin Lin Yifu, former chief economist of the World Bank, don't be fooled. China, he says, still has what it takes to overtake the United States economically, possibly within the next decade. That sounds bold, especially when the data seems to suggest otherwise. So why does Lin stand firm? Who's more likely to be right, those predicting China's ascent or those calling its decline? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Will China eclipse the U.S. in economic size by 2030, yes or no? Stay with us. Because what's buried in this story might change how you see global power for the next 50 years. Let's start with the big question that got everyone talking. In 2022, China's economy grew at a rate of 3%. The U.S. only 2.1%. On the surface, it seems like China is catching up. But here's the twist. Not all GDP growth is equal. When measured in U.S. dollars, the story changes dramatically. China's economic output increased by roughly $300 billion. Meanwhile, the U.S. saw a jump of $2.5 trillion, over 8 times more. That's how the GDP gap between the two countries ballooned from $5.3 trillion to $8.5 trillion in just 1 year. Perhaps more strikingly, China's GDP now stands at about 71% of America's, down from 77% the year before. But here's the key to understanding this shift. The U.S. dollar. Let's pull back the curtain. Why does the U.S. GDP appear to be exploding in dollar terms? A primary reason is inflation. In 2022, American consumer prices rose by 8%, and producer prices surged by an eye-watering 16.5%. China, by contrast, recorded far milder figures, just 2% and 4.1% respectively. All that inflation artificially inflates the U.S.'s nominal GDP. The economy appears to be growing, but much of that is simply higher prices, not greater actual output. Add to this the Federal Reserve's aggressive monetary tightening. To combat inflation, it raised interest rates 7 times that year, pulling capital into the U.S. from around the world and strengthening the dollar. That created a double hit for China. While China's real economy remained stable, its GDP appeared smaller in dollar terms due to a 9.2% depreciation of the yuan against the dollar. And China wasn't alone. Japan's yen fell by 16.5%. At one point, analysts even speculated that Japan's GDP could sink to 4th place globally, behind Germany. If you're wondering whether currency distortions hide the real economic balance, you're not wrong. So should we conclude China's falling behind for good? Not so fast. When we zoom out beyond currency fluctuations and temporary shocks, the pattern tells a different story. From 1979 to 2019, China's economy grew at an average of 9.4% per year. That pace took it from an agrarian backwater to the world's second-largest economy. By 2019, many experts, including international institutions, forecasted that China would surpass the U.S. as early as 2030. Then came a global pandemic. Over 3 disruptive years, China's annual GDP growth averaged just 4.6%. Meanwhile, America's economy bounced back faster than expected, buoyed by consumer stimulus and high liquidity, widening the GDP gap. So, yes, the forecast has shifted. Some analysts now say the turning point may come around 2033. Or even as late as 2055, but others remain confident that China's structural strengths remain intact. Even Elon Musk has weighed in on the matter. He stated that he believes we'll live to see a world where China's economy is 2 or even 3 times larger than that of the U.S. That's optimism from someone who understands global markets deeply. But there's a warning here. 2. Even if China overtakes the U.S. in total size, its GDP per capita remains far behind. Currently, it's just 1/4 of what the average American earns. That's a structural gap that'll take more than time it'll take reform. If you've stuck with us this far, you're clearly not here for headlines. You want to see the deeper trends shaping how power shifts in our world. So don't just stop now. Click to follow EPAC Report and turn on bell notifications. Because in just 10 minutes a day, you'll start to recognize these turning points early enough to respond. For years, critics said China was stuck in the low and mid-tiers of global manufacturing. That's no longer the full story. Beyond being the world's factory, China is now reshaping supply chains by moving into high-tech and high-value sectors. Breakthroughs in semiconductors are narrowing gaps with the West. The push toward building its own EUV machines is symbolic of this ambition, reducing reliance on foreign suppliers. The auto industry has flipped the narrative. China is no longer just an exporter of budget cars. Its EV brands, from BYD to NIO, are redefining global competition and challenging established players on both price and innovation. China's transformation is best seen in how industries once dismissed as low-end are reinventing themselves. In steel, what used to be low-margin output is now world-leading specialty materials. The innovation in hand-torn steel proves that China can leap from bulk to cutting-edge. In aviation and defense, Chinese technology has gained global traction. The JF-17 fighter jets co-developed with Pakistan are a powerful case, not only competitive in design and cost, but also deployed in real geopolitics, tipping balances in South Asia. These successes are more than headlines. They show China's manufacturing can command both profit and prestige in global markets. It's no longer accurate to say China lags behind in foundational innovation. The landscape is shifting fast. DeepSeek's AI breakthrough shook markets and proved that China can push the frontier in artificial intelligence, not just copy existing models. In fields from quantum computing to hypersonics, Chinese labs are setting records and raising global benchmarks. Infrastructure is scaling too. Cloud platforms, domestic GPUs, and regulatory support are creating an ecosystem that rivals the U.S. model, while American firms like OpenAI, Microsoft, and Google remain strong. The gap is closing quickly, and in some areas, China is already sprinting ahead. Now let's talk about one of China's most pressing challenges: its shrinking population. In 2022, the national population declined by 850,000. Seniors over the age of 60 now make up nearly 20% of the country. That's a worrying trend. Economic growth is fueled by people, by workers, innovators, and young consumers. A future of negative population growth could mean long-term stagnation if not addressed. Why is this happening? High child-rearing costs, limited childcare support, and social stigma against working mothers are all part of the equation. Some cities have started to provide fertility subsidies, and others are expanding access to community childcare. But without stronger incentives and policies that protect women in the workplace, growth will remain constrained. The long-term lever is technology, and China is no longer simply catching up. Over the past decade, China's Global Innovation Index has climbed from 34th in 2012 to 11. By 2022, that's only part of the story. R&D investment is massive. As a share of GDP, China is now among the top spenders globally, backing everything from semiconductors to quantum research. Talent is abundant. Nearly half of the world's top AI researchers were trained in China, giving it a pipeline of expertise even larger than the United States. Breakthroughs are accelerating. From AI models like DeepSeek to advances in 5G, EVs, hypersonics, and biotech, China is crossing milestones once thought out of reach. By 2025, nearly 80% of the goals in the Made in China 2025 plan have already been achieved. A clear signal of industrial and technological upgrading. Crucially, economic growth now relies on technology development. And in this sector, China shows a clear trend to surpass the U.S. This isn't just progress, it's momentum. The innovation race is no longer about whether China can catch up, but how far and how fast it can move ahead. Back to where we started. Justin Lin Yifu still believes China will surpass the U.S. by 2030 or at the latest 2035, and he might not be wrong. After all, the economy is a marathon, not a sprint. A few slow miles don't undo consistent progress. China's infrastructure, population size, technological ambition, and macroeconomic management give it a roadmap if it addresses its structural challenges head-on. I want to hear your take. Is China truly on a path to surpass the U.S., or will internal challenges be too much to overcome? Yes or no? Drop your thoughts below. I read every one. If this gave you a clearer picture of the global economic race, don't stop here. Subscribe to the Epoch Report and tap the bell icon. In a rapidly shifting world, timing is everything, and we deliver real insights, not just headlines.